This is the Google DeepMind landing page for Imagen, which is their text-to-image model. And it's got this nice video background where the images enter, they're demasked and they rotate. And I thought it looked really nice, but because it's a video, it lacks any kind of interactivity. I thought, why don't we try recreating that using ThreeJS? And in doing so, we can add depth, and that's shown as the pointer moves the camera. We can also add a scroll-driven animation where we move the images up and out as we scroll down. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the image reveal plane receives the image source, the width and height for the plane in which it's displayed, and a position for that plane, which we'll be using later. I'm going to use texture hook from Dre to load our image from its source, and then we'll set its color space so that it looks as it should. Down below, we've got our plane, which receives the width and height along with its position. The mesh basic node material is all that we need here. We can start with a basic color such as blue, and what we'll do is create a color node which uses the texture method from ThreeJS Shading Language to sample the texture at the given UV coordinate for that fragment. Then we return this texture color as the color node value. When we apply that onto the node material, we'll see that our image is displayed. Okay, we better fix that stretching then. The UV coordinates are only working in the current implementation if both the image and the plane are square, but they're not. So what we're going to do is calculate the plane aspect ratio and the image aspect ratio and pass them into a custom function which will calculate the cover UV. And what that will do is it will multiply either the Y or the X, depending on whether the plane or the image has a greater aspect ratio. And the subtraction of 0.5 and adding it back ensures that it's centered. So then with the cover UV, we can sample our texture and see that it's now scaled correctly. Okay, time to add the border radius and a mask. I've got a U reveal uniform, which will move from 0 to 1. We're going to set up the mask here with a border radius and a softness value. The softness will begin at a higher amount and it'll crispen up as the reveal value reaches 1. Got a little help with ChatGPT to calculate these distances because they need to be sort of, adjusted for the shape or the aspect of the plane. Once we've got the distance to the edge, we're passing that into a signed distance function for a rounded rectangle. This is a commonly used function in ray marching, and it will tell us whether the point tested is inside or outside of the rounded rectangle. And with that, we can create the mask using a smooth step with our softness. Some of the images need to be blurred, so I've added an is blurred uniform up here. And then what we're doing is setting the texture color into a different color variable so that we can modify it. If it's blurred, we're then using the hash blur function from ThreeJS Shading Language examples, hash blur here, with a blur amount and number of cycles. Then we assign that blurred color to our color. So that will give us the blurred effect. We're also going to update the softness value so that when it's blurred, we retain soft edges to give it that kind of effect like the whole plane is blurred rather than just the image within the plane. Now for the position movement, there are two new uniforms, the enter progress and the exit progress. We'll just be focusing on the enter progress for now. Inside the position node, we use that enter progress value to rotate it using a 3dy rotation function, which I've created and imported. And we are also translating it on the Y and Z from 2 to 0 as we enter. I'm going to use GSAP to tween the reveal and enter progress uniforms from 0 to 1. They are separate tweens so that they can have separate durations, and a delay prop has been passed in as well so that when we've got multiple images they can be staggered. I've prompted a number of images into existence all around a kind of futuristic AI theme. I've been impressed by Gemini's ability to actually get fingers looking right, and also it can get text as well, which is surprising. We're in deep trouble. The image reveal planes have now been positioned in a sort of oval shape with some further in the background with a reduced Z index and a blurring. The delay prop is made use of so that they can enter on the right and kind of move around in that circular shape. Into the UI then and the global style sheet, I'm using Tailwind 4, so the theme is defined directly in the CSS. I've added the colors, so an off black, blue, teal, also making use of a CSS color function. What this is doing is it's generating a desaturated and darker version of both the blue and the teal. Set up the markdown with the Tailwind styles. I've created a Gemini button which makes use of the Tailwind 4 gradient syntax, where we've got the type of gradient, the angle, and the color blending mode. So this is all quite new, and it will go from blue to teal, and on hover it will go from dark blue to dark teal. When the replay intro button is clicked, what it's doing is setting a time string into state, which is then passed into the scene and into the image reveal plane, and that will trigger our GSAP tweens to rerun as we have the replay time as a dependency on that use effect. So by clicking the button, it replays the animation. Thanks for watching the video, and hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be making more videos on ThreeJS, in particular ThreeJS Shading Language, so writing the shader logic in the JavaScript in our React components. Please subscribe if you haven't already, it means a lot. Peace.